those new structures, it was created by the people who converse with other people. Then he talks about productivity. It is an infinite combinations are possible. It is here infinite combinations means you can use so many sentences to talk a paragraph, and you can use any words to talk about anything, he says. So we don't have any rules or any restraints or any control for human language, he says. When it comes to displacement, he says, so when it comes to displacement, I can tell you this. See, if you think of human language and animal language, animal cannot go and talk and like this happened in the past. You cannot, a dog cannot go and talk to another dog saying that, hey, see, listen, this happened in the past, so those things will not happen in the human language. But when it comes, sorry, in the animal language. But when it comes to the animal language, I can go and talk to my friend about, see, that happened yesterday, that happened last week, that happened last month. So I can talk everything. So in this displacement, he talked about displacement in time and space. You can talk about anything. You can talk about time. You can talk about space. I mean, space in the sense that happened this year, and when I went to Delhi, that happened, and everything we can talk in human languages. We can make connections, we can make past tense, we can make past and everything. We can also talk the future also. And moving to the cultural transmission, it is not genetically inherited, but culturally transmitted, he says. But he also says, and some languages, these rules and everything, they're culturally transmitted. We are in the society, and I am bound to these rules, and I am in the family. I am bound to make some rules and connections with this family so that my culture, so that my habit, everything will change. When it comes to cultural transmission to the language, he says language has some connection to culture. I will make it a detail. Other person is waiting, so that he'll make a definite distinction between the culture and how culture and language and how culture and society is mingled. Then moving to interchangeability. Interchangeabilities can be the sender or the receiver of the message. I think if you read this ICT or communication when it comes to the first paper, and you will get to know the question. So if if the communication is end, the communication is ending, the receiver should understand the message. Then only the communication is complete. So when it comes to interchangeability, it can either be the sender or the receiver of the message should understand the concept or the concept. Okay, then moving to dynamic and modifiable, it changes over time. He says the languages changes over time. It will not have that this word should be used in a particular time, and the other word can the next era. Now I can say in the I'm happy and gay, and when I say it in the 20 years before I'm happy and gay, so people will look bad at me, isn't it? Then moving to prevarications used to fabricate facts. Here he says human language can talk lies, but when it comes to animal language, animal cannot go and talk a lie. So this is like fabricate words. You can use anything and you can say anything from the experience you have. Then moving to origin of languages, we have like these theories, bow wow theory. This language originated in the limitation of cries of an animal and birds. When it comes to bow wow, we'll know that it is from the cries of animal and birds. Moving to poo poo theory, it originated as a response to emotion triggered by pain and pleasure. Whether it has come from the pain or it may come from the pleasure. Moving to the ding dong theory, it is an earliest words wherein an onomatopoeic echo of sounds around people. We'll have always a noisy atmosphere. We'll hear so many sounds when you silently listen the sounds that is happening around us. We'll definitely have so many sounds. So this was talked in the theory, ding dong theory. Moving to Ohiho theory, it emerged from rhyme sounds made during collective words. Sorry, I should have done words here. There is a typo here. Words. Then Tata theory, speech came from the use of tongue or mouth gestures to mimic manual gestures. We'll always mimic a person. We'll always usually students will mimic teachers. So when these things happened, those theory will be talked in the Tata theory. Moving to Lala theory, the speech came from the use of inspired playfulness, love poetry, and song. As I told you a bit before, when we talk to a child, a small child will not we'll reduce our tone, we'll talk like we'll become children when we talk to a child. So moving to historical linguistics in detail, historical linguistics studies about the language change, and again moving to diachronical, there is a comparison of different period times in the past and the present. We'll do that study in a diachronical study. Moving to synchronical, it is a developments between variation that exist within the current linguistic stage of a language. When we sit and discuss the languages used at the present time, that is called the synchronical study. Those words that has nothing to deal with the past. Then those moving to the what historical linguistics focused is on, they focused on the comparative linguistics, that is study of language families and relationship between different languages. So that is what thing happened in historical linguistics. Moving to the modern linguistics, it began in the 20th century. The attention shift to the fact that not only language change, so but the language structure with certain rules and regulations changed. In the historical period, they talked about the language change, but in the modern linguistics, people are talking about the structure of the language. So linguists turned their attention to the study grammar. Grammar in the sound system of a language and the internal structure of its words and sentences. So that we talked about phonology, morphology, phoneme, and everything. In the 1920s, essayist linguist, as we know, Ferdinand de Saussure, developed the methods of grammatical analysis. We know what Saussure did, Lang, Perrault, competence, and everything. Moving to who are the important structural linguists are Saussure, Bloomfield, Hockett, and Roman Jakobson. Okay, we'll talk about language variation theory. The term linguistic variation refers to regional, social, or contextual. See here, I'm talking about regional, social, or contextual. You'll definitely a bell will ring in your mind saying that sociolect, idiolect, dialect. Okay, a variation in the language theory talks about these things. They have these aspects in the minds: regional, social, and contextual, and the differences in way that a particular language is used. Okay, we know Madurai Tamil is quite different from Tiruchi Tamil, and Chennai Tamil is very different from other Tamils. Okay, those were the factors getting involved in this time. The factors can be social status, age, gender, education level, and regional location. And what effect it had in the language, it had in the linguistics is it reflect and shape cultural identities. A person from if you go and meet a people in Chennai, and if a person come from Tirunelveli, on the way, on the first language itself, will come to know that this person is from that particular community or that particular location, that particular area. So moving again to very deep into the language variation theory, it studies of how languages changes over time and how it varies across regions, social groups, and context. Then there is a person called William Lubbock in the 1960s, and this man pioneered this language variation theory. And the concept he used is the variation in the way they use their languages, how language is used among different peoples. And he talked about two types of language variation theory. One is the inter-speaker and the other one is the intra-speaker. When it comes to inter-speaker, he talks about variation between the speakers among many speakers. When it comes to intra-speaker, he talks about variation within a single speaker. See, some person will be good at talking in Madurai Tamil, and that same person will talk very good in at Tirunelveli Tamil. And when he goes to Chennai, he will definitely or she will get connected to that Tamil. So that was the intrapersonal variations. Again, moving to regional dialects, it is based on the geographical area. Then social dialects, it is a social status, educational status, or socio-economic background will plays a major role. When it comes to contextual variations, it is based on the contextual situations, like whether we are making talking to your friends or talking to some higher authorities. Moving to idiolect, it is a language pattern of an individual. It is like the rules. It is the rules we have for certain languages, but how we use the languages is idiolect. And diachronic variation, language changes over time. And synchronic variation, different dialects or registers used at the same time. And argot is primarily developed to disguise conversation or secret languages. For example, if I'm a thief, I'm going and talking to another person who is also a thief, I will use some argot there. And Creole again, he says, language that emerge as a result of contact between two or more languages. If two or more languages get involved and mixed and get to other languages, that is called Creole. Then Pidgin, it is a simplified language used for communication between groups with different languages. So it is like we'll have some languages. For example, if we talk at home, we'll not use like so many respected words and so many. Will be very casual and will make our languages very, will simplify our language. So that is called pidgin. Moving to slang, it is an informal language used by a particular group or generation. Some other, my slang will be different from others' slang. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Then there are several branches of linguistics. First is phonetics. We know it is a study of speech sound. Then phonology, it is study of sound patterns in language. Then morphology, it is study of word structure and the formation. Syntax, it is the study of sentence structure and word order. Then semantics, it is a study of meanings in the language. Pragmatics, study of language in context and communication. For these six things, I will deal in detail. Then you can also read these things if you need. Psycholinguistic, it is a study of language and the mind, how our mind is getting the languages, how we fasten to read in other languages, a new language. Then when it comes to comparative linguistic, it is a study of language similarities and differences among two languages. And applied linguistics, it is a study of language and practical applications such as language teaching and language assessment. And moving to computational, it is something to deal with computer languages or those things, the text or speech using computational methods. If we talk to an AI, then the AI is getting my word, getting my meaning, and getting my languages, and again it is replying back. If you go and type something in Tamil, now you can also do it now. AI will say, "I'm learning Tamil. I will get back to you soon." That will the answer we get it when it comes to this artificial intelligence when it comes to Tamil. So AI is learning a language. Similarly, computer will have their own languages, and that is what called computational linguistics. Moving to evolutionary linguistics, it is a study of language origins and evolution. How languages evolved, how languages uh, get used by different peoples. Then forensic linguistics, it is a study of language in legal and criminal investigation. We can connect this term forensic linguistic with a word called jargon. So every society or every professional will have their own jargons. Then geolinguistics, it is a study of language in relation to geography and spatial distribution. Yes, ma'am. Moving to phonetics, it is a study of speech sounds of a language. Then we have speech sound, a phonetically distinct unit of speech. We know we have 44 speech sound in English, 20 vowel sounds, and 24 consonants. And what is a phoneme? A unit of sound that distinguishes one word from another. For example, per and b, pat and bat is completely different. The smallest unit we call it as phoneme. Then grapheme, it is a symbol or character used to represent a phoneme, that is grapheme. Vowel, we all know, it is a sound produced by a continuous airstream. Consonant, it is a sound produced with a complete or partial blocking of the airstream. Monophthong, vowel that has perceived only one sound, it is called monophthong. Tongue and lips will remain in a fixed position. Okay. When it comes to diphthong, they will, tongue and lips move or glide from one position to other. That is diphthong. Yes.
Gliding
Moving to
sound.
moving to phonology, it is a study of sound patterns in language where we have allophone, pitch, intonation, rhythm, and you can tone of utterances. These things we all know, rhythm and the juncture, the pause that we make between two words. Okay, rhythm, a kind of musical tone. When it comes to allophone, a variant of phonemes that occur in the specific concepts. For example, K is an allophone when it comes to the beginning of the word cat, but the spelling is CAT. But the phoneme we use, but the allophone we have, there is the phoneme K. Is going to the next branch of linguistics, morphology. It is a study of the structure and the formation of words. It examines how words are formed with smaller units such as root. We will always have a root word. Then we will add prefix. Then we'll go ahead with suffix. Then at the end we'll have an inflection. So what is a root word? A core of a word, a root word. Then moving to prefix, a morpheme that is added at the beginning of a word, and suffix, a morpheme that is added at the end of a word. Then inflection, change in the form of a word to indicate grammatical features such as tenses, case, or number. That is inflection. Syntax, it is how words are combined to form sentences. We all know how words are taken into consideration to form a sentence, to form a meaningful sentence. It examines the rules and principle because as we are making it the sentence, we are connecting every word one after another. So we'll definitely have a rule. Okay, so we'll have a word order, we'll have a phrase formation, and a clause structure. Okay, when it comes to phrase structure, the organization of words into phrases, such as noun phrase and verb phrase, we'll do. When it comes to clause structure, the organization of phrases into clauses, definitely, such as independent or dependent clauses. We'll go for, when it comes to clause structure, we'll look for clause. Then semantics, it is a study of meanings. It examines how words, phrases, and sentence convey meaning. Okay, homonymy is same pronunciation but different meanings. We'll have same pronunciation but will have different meaning. Synonymy, similar meanings. Antonymy, there's an opposite meaning. Metonymy, for example, if you are referring 10 people, you will always have 10 pair of sounds, will say. Then meronymy, term used to denote part of something, but it is used to refer to the whole. Okay, if I say a finger, I'm making it a reference to my hand. Okay, so amelioration, for example, I told you, madam in the past is a very uh, illegal term, but now madam is a term, is a word address a lady or address a people or address an higher authority. Then pejoration, meaning of word becomes negative over a period of time. For example, you can have a word called gay that was used in the past as a very good term, but now we are making it a different sense. Then major linguist, you can, I've given the list of major linguists and their important concepts. Okay, these five linguists you can definitely, you should make notes, and at least one or two questions will definitely expect the Ferdinand de Saussure, and without Ferdinand de Saussure, we will not get any net questions. Okay. So Ferdinand de Saussure is a linguist. He talks about lang. Lang is a French term. The French term, because this was asked in net once, it represents a set of rules, but parole is how with the set of rules an individual is using the languages. Okay. Then signifier, material representation of a linguistics. No, ma'am, I have not completed. Material representation of a linguistic sign. When it comes to signified, it is an idea or concept associated with a signifier. This person say signifier and signified as some connections. Okay. Then semiotic arbitrariness, relationship between signified and signifier, he says. When we talks about arbitrariness, he is talking about how a signifier is related to the signified. Yes, ma'am. Edward Sapir is a prominent American linguist and anthropologist. He talked about the study of language and culture. I told you in the previous thing itself, a person called Edward Sapir, he has so many things to deal with language and culture. When it comes to linguistic relativity, he talked about a concept called linguistic relativity. He argued that language influences thought and perception, and the different languages shape our understanding of the world. He says, some language and culture has some relation. Okay, you cannot completely move ahead with language, and or else you cannot completely move ahead with culture. So language and culture has some, I mean, some connection, he says. Language classification. He also talked about language classification, where Sapir developed a system of for classifying language into families and branches, which is still used today. He again talked about in the European, Dravidian, and everything he made. And grammar and syntax, he studied the structure of languages, including phonology, morphology, and syntax. Then he was making the difference how phonology is related to culture, how morphology is related to culture, how syntax, which means the sentence, is related to culture, I mean the structure. When it comes to ethnolinguistics, Sapir examined the relationship between language and culture and how language reflects the beliefs, values, and practices of a society. That was, when you think of language and society, you can definitely think of Edward Sapir. Moving to Leonard Bloomfield, who was an American linguist and scholar who made significant contributions to the development of structural linguistic and language theory. When it comes to structural linguistic, he emphasized the importance of analyzing language as a system of structure rather than as a collection of words and rules. He says structural linguistics will always talks about structure on the language, and he says it is not only the structure. After getting the structure of a language, you should also be able to analyze the sentence. Okay. Then he talked about phonology. He developed a systematic approach to the study of sound patterns in language. It is not that two sounds which is completely indifferent will get connected. So he says those things, the sounds is turned into words, and those sounds should have a connection, and those two sounds will definitely make a word, and the word will make sense, should make sense, and the word should go with the sentence, and the entire sentence should have a definite meaning. So that is what he talked about phonology. When it comes to language acquisition, he says he believed that language learning is a process of habit formation, and the children learn language through a process of imitation and reinforcement. Usually, a child will imitate the parents. So, those things he talked about. And it comes to Noam Chomsky, and he is known for his generative grammar, which revolutionized the field of linguistics. When it comes to generative grammar, Chomsky proposed that language is innate to the human mind and that we are born with universal grammar that underlies all human languages. And he also talked about deep structure and surface structure. He introduced the concept of deep structure, the underlying meaning of the sentence. Usually, when you read a poem,